American dream house, everyone thinking was like, a dream. Dream is something magical, something as how you see in the movies or how you see in everywhere else. But in real life, it was completely different because I had to challenge my own self to survive.
Really, it's all around us. It's right here in San Diego. It's in every big urban county and small county across the United States. It's the second largest criminal industry in the world, the second largest criminal industry in the United States, and the second largest, unfortunately, right here in San Diego.
Human trafficking is the use of force, coercion, or fraud to control a person for engagement in commercial sex, forced labor, or domestic servitude. I commonly use the taken example of a young girl who's kidnapped, and the idea is that she's going to be forced into sexual slavery. And that scenario is very, very uncommon. What we see more frequently is someone that is coerced or eased along into the process of human trafficking.
For sex trafficking, 80% of our victims are domestic victims. For labor trafficking, it is mostly immigrants.
I was technically living, I can say, next to you, and you didn't even notice.
In order for us to be an example for the rest of the world as a beacon of freedom, we need to be sure that our own kids are free and that people that are on our soil, no matter what walk of life they've come from, or no matter what their documentation status is, that they are treated as free human beings.
You don't have the time to see yourself doing those things. You don't have the time to imagine that can happen to you.
They know that if other victims are able to see their story, hear their story, that it will give them hope to access services so that they can emerge from this vicious cycle. So building awareness is very important, and the way that La Maestra has done that is taken a note of people's lives that have come through our doors, that are willing to share, and they do so willingly because they want to be part of this awareness and advocacy building program.
They come first to my department, we do the intake, we provide the social services and the legal advocacy, and then we refer these clients with immigration services. Everything from financial assistance, mental health programs, legal advocacy, and referrals give them the opportunity to come forward. This is something that we as a society, we have to take care of this.
Because they're homeless, they're vulnerable to traffickers who use their homelessness and their poverty and their need for food and shelter to use them for prostitution.
For those that don't have that solid family structure, it can be preying upon their emotions and their sense of belonging, whether that's in a relationship or something that more closely resembles a family unit. Traffickers take advantage and manipulate the weaknesses that they perceive in their victims.
The way how this world works is technically at the beginning they give you everything for free. This was the only place I feel secure during the day. Because at night, the darkness, the fear come together. And my whole entire life, before the house, I didn't know I was a dealer. I didn't know my own self became allowed to taste the drugs. I didn't know that I was making profit on my body, or what I did. I didn't know that I was using to connect people to the house, to bring people to the house.
You don't always need a gun or a knife to the head of a victim. You can use other methods like drugs as another psychological weapon, a chemical weapon is what we call it, in order to keep a victim engaged and basically enslaved in human trafficking.
My body was completely controlled by drugs. My soul was controlled by drugs. I didn't have opportunity to think, what am I doing? What am I doing?
What men sometimes see as a willing, that somebody's making a choice to be a prostitute, what they're not seeing is what's happening behind the scenes.
They study you. They looking for you. They choose you. They make it the homework to figure out who you are, how do you live, how fragile you can be.
Traffickers very much understand what these victims are going to go through in the pursuit of making that trafficker money, and there generally is a disregard for the impact it's going to have on their victim.
They tell me if I say something, someone in the house could die. And it wasn't me. Maybe my dad or my mom.
Unfortunately, victims of human trafficking have been made to feel like they are the ones to be blamed, that they're the ones that should feel shame, and that's why they don't report and they stay in hiding.
If I spoke or I called, somebody else would pay the price. And it was gonna be me. I don't have the right to take away the life of my parents.
For the survivors of trafficking, it's not easy to come and ask for help. They usually don't trust the system or don't trust the persons, and they don't know where they can go to ask for help.
No one wanted to listen. The night when I was escaping from my own house because someone told me they would kill me if I stay in the house, I knocked many doors of the neighborhood, and no one opened for myself to give me a hand or to let me use the phone to call someone to help me. I was running into the canyons to save myself.
We get referrals from some other human trafficking organizations and from law enforcement. But the majority of our clients lately are referred by other clients. So it's a word of mouth.
So it's a law enforcement problem, no doubt, but human trafficking is also a community problem. And left solely to law enforcement, we're not going to be able to defeat human trafficking.
It's just so unfortunate that we don't have enough staff to be able to really do the advanced case management that these complicated cases require.
We know that the trauma that's experienced by human trafficking victims is complex and that it is harder to really solve and to bring them to a healthy life than almost any other form of abuse.
As long as there are health disparities within our society, we're going to see an escalation of human trafficking cases.
There is a need for more shelter and more professional services that assist victims that become survivors and assist them to survive and then to thrive.
Agencies, nonprofits, faith-based groups get involved in some aspect of the solution. And that's how we're going to win, by continuing to collaborate not only within law enforcement, but within the community as a whole to help combat trafficking.
Start looking at these disparities, the root causes, and try to link this up to perhaps policy change, specific targeted funding to really improve those aspects of society in low-income neighborhoods that are challenged with many disparities.
La Maestra has the people, who has the time, who has the dedication, the passion to see you as a human being.
We can't do it alone. We really do need that partnership with the nonprofit community, a partnership with those service providers, partnership with the community as a whole in order to defeat human trafficking.
Human trafficking is an issue that should be all of our responsibility. The only way that we end problems that are really deep and really ugly in society is if we don't think of them as someone else's problem.
I encourage you to get a copy of our latest advocacy book, Surviving in the Shadows, and these are really incredibly insightful into the victims' lives, how they entered into this horrible existence, and what were the social factors, what were the reasons that they felt like they were vulnerable.
When we see that something is wrong, we have to say it. We have to start talking with the kids and young people about trafficking, about human rights, about respect, about dignity, about equality.
We need to step up as a society, as a nation, to co-create these wonderful solutions that are at our fingertips.
The FBI is 100% committed to combating human trafficking. As part of that process, the FBI wants victims to come forward. We want victims to tell their story. We are here to help get resources for those victims, here to get help for those victims and get them out of this horrific lifestyle.
The more that we're able to expose this and the more that we make it acceptable to report, the more we educate our community, we are seeing more and more people freed. But then what happens? Are they really free? Without the help of professional organizations, they could fall right back into that cycle of victimization.
Please become involved in this social change movement that La Maestra and all of our partners are very much involved with. And that's going to require calling your elected officials, sending them emails, letters, to increase funding for these programs in communities where victims reside and where they're going to access services.
If anyone listens to me or anyone sees to me, help others. Because hope exists.